Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be working on adding rear courtesy lights into the 2002 to 2007 Jeep Liberty KJ. And why would you want to do something like this? Well, there's a couple reasons why. First, it's going to be easier to see when you're loading and unloading stuff into the back. It also provides better illumination for any passengers that you have in the rear. It doesn't cost very much. You can usually find the housings for either free or about $5 at the salvage yard. Same thing for the wire, and some new LED bulbs which cost around $3 a piece. Fortunately, this is something that doesn't take very long either. It should only take about 90 minutes or so to complete it start to finish. There will be a few tools that you will need for this. You need a Phillips screwdriver, wire cutters and wire strippers, some heat shrink tubing, soldering iron, and some solder. And it's best to have some basic soldering skills as well. And remember, I don't have any special skills, tools, or training. If I can do it, so can you. Alright, here's a kind of a lay of the land, what we're going to be doing. Those lights there on the floor, that's what we're going to be adding into the rear of the KJ. First thing we're going to need to do is get the center console up and out. We're actually going to start on the front and then work our way towards the back. Best thing to do is take off the clips that hold the surround for the shifter. This is a 6-speed, but the surround for the automatic is just plastic, and then the boot that covers, or the surround that covers the four-wheel drive, you'll lift that up as well. There's a couple screws that are underneath both of those that we need to get to. You can see here's the second screw. Once we've got the first one from underneath the drive shifter, and then the second one underneath the four-wheel drive. Then we need to remove the window control to get access to that area here. Remove the cup holder and then pull this straight out. It just clips in, and you just push the orange tab and release the clip. Make sure you tuck that back in, because as we lift it up, it's going to get caught if you don't. Then we need to remove the caddy that holds all the stuff in the center console. Clean out all of the garbage and other general stuff that you just keep in there all of the time. Once you have those 5 screws removed, you can lift the lid off the back. Then you can get to the bottom, and there's 2 screws in the bottom. You remove those 2 screws that are right there, and that will allow you to remove the entire center console armrest assembly, and just comes right out. Behind that metal tab, if you remember, in the KJ on the back, the window controls are off of that center console. It's very tough to get in there, but you can release the clip and just wiggle it back and forth. And it also helps to pull the cable from underneath as well. Once you have that, then you can twist the cover on the manual and also on the four-wheel drive selector so that they're facing up, so that when you lift it up from the back and tip it forward, you can just shove those back into the holes and lift it up. Alright, now we're going to tap into the light, the courtesy light that's actually underneath the dash on the driver's side. This illuminates the footwell for the driver's side. First thing I do is unclip it from the light, and then I'm going to cut the wire. Now you see there's the wire, and those are the 2 ends there. This is probably the most challenging part, to get the wire strippers in that spot. But once you do have it stripped, then we just need to run the wire that we're going to be running to the back lights, and we just run it up through there. You see me running it up forward here. You can either choose to run it through the dash, or you can do that after it's all soldered up, either way. Then once you have the wires there, what I did is I soldered the connectors onto the end of that wire, that connector, the plug that goes into the lamp that's underneath the dash there. So I made that connection there, but I use this little, and if you've seen any of my previous videos, I use this, what I call like a little bridge. It's got 2 soldered ends or tinned ends on the middle, and then one part in the middle. It's going to go around those hooks that I just circled there. And I did have to trim it back a little bit. I didn't trim quite enough of the insulation off here, because you do need to make sure that this hook is big enough to accept that loop that's coming from there. And you can see me bringing that loop in here. And that's the loop there. You can see on the yellow wire how I've got the 2 ends that are soldered in. And then you've got the exposed part in the middle. And on the red wire, I've already looped it around the hook. And then once you have it looped, you put the heat shrink tubing on. And I just use the metal that's around the steering wheel there to kind of prop it up for me to solder. I am using a butane-powered soldering iron. Normally I use a battery-operated one, but I had to disconnect the power in order to do this, so I couldn't use my electrically operated one. So I used a butane-powered soldering iron here. Very convenient, easy to use, really portable. And you can see there I had the red one, and now magically I have the yellow one done as well. And that's that loop that I was talking about, or that bridge that then loops around. Then the one end of that is the part that plugs right back into the light socket, as you can see there on the left, and then the wire runs to the right. Now that that's in there, and this is the light that's underneath there, so you actually see what it is, you can just button this part back up. And then you, like I said, you run that wire up underneath the dash and then through the center console part here, which is the reason why we need the center console out. As you can see, I have the 2 ends of the plugs for these lights, and then I've got it in the middle here. So I'm just making a really long bridge section here, basically. And you can see there I have the 2 hooks, and then now I've stripped that wire, and I just fold it over. And even though I try to crimp it here, remember that you need to get the heat shrink tubing on before you do this. Otherwise you're going to be unsoldering it and putting that back on. Or you're going to be using electrical tape, and that just looks bad, and in the long run it fails. If you're going to be doing this, don't use butt connectors. Use a soldering iron, solder the connections, use heat shrink tubing, do it the right way. You saw previously in there I had some butt connectors that was from the previous owner, and I just haven't gone back and fixed those yet. They haven't failed. When they do fail, I will definitely do what I'm doing here, which is using solder, soldering iron, and heat shrink tubing. So then the wire on the left that's coming from the dash, connecting up to the pair of wires that's going off, one to the driver's side and one to the passenger side. Use that little butane torch to shrink the heat shrink tubing onto it. Then we need to route the wires. And again, one of them goes underneath the seat on the driver's side, and the other one goes on the passenger side. And you can choose how best to route this on yours. It's not really a scientific process. It's just whatever it is so that it's out of the way. It doesn't interfere with especially that emergency brake handle there. Now here it is in the back, and you can see that I've got it plugged in. I've got it run through this part here, and I just zip tie it to the back. I experimented with running it down, but because of the clip on the back side of the housing, it's really tall, so it's not really feasible to do it. This provides kind of a nice general light anyway, and it's not like it's on while you're driving. It's only on when the doors are open, or for about 20 seconds or so once the door is shut. Now we just need to lower it back down, and you put it back on the reverse way of the way you took it off. You do it from the front, and you get that through the shifters, the drive, and then the four-wheel drive selectors. And then once you have that down, you can just lower it, and then just make sure that you have it seated properly, pushed all the way forward, and that all of the screw holes are going to line up. And then we just start reassembling. We just put that center console back in. We've got the 2 screws on the front. I just put that in there to hold it. Then we've got the lid for that armrest holder. And again, those are 3 screws there. I just put those 3 screws, and you can see the 2 screw holes in the bottom there. You won't see me do that. I forgot to film that. It's in there. It's in the bottom. Once those 3 screws are tightened back up, then the back part of this is secured. Close that back up. And you've got to worry about the front part here. So you just lift it up. Again, the shift boot covers, and screw those 2 screws in. One of them on the drive shifter, either if it's the manual like this one is, or under the plastic bezel for the left side, the driver's side, for the 4-wheel drive selector. Once those 2 are in, then everything is back secured into place, and it's just a matter of putting the few things back in that we don't have already. And that's going to be the switch for the window control, which it only goes in one way. It takes me way longer than it should have to figure that out. There it goes. Now it's in the right way. And then the rubber cup holder part, and everything is back together. And you can see the lights there. It's about 15 or 20 seconds from the time you shut the door to the time that the lights dim and go down. Now, in this video, there's actually incandescent lights in there, but I replaced it with LEDs because I don't want to be underneath here. And also, now that I've got more draw on there, by replacing everything with LEDs, it reduces the total amount of current, just reduces any chance of draining the battery from this. This was a pretty simple and easy mod to do, add some convenience for you and any passengers you might have riding with you in the back. Thanks for watching, everybody.